In Teach English Now, we have presented 5 modules for you, introducing fundamental language principles along the way. We hope that you have enjoyed watching them as much as we have enjoyed producing them.
Now we would like to help you tie all of this information together to give you an overall view of these fundamental principles. We will be using a taxonomy in order to help convey these ideas more clearly. The taxonomy will take the shape of a pyramid.
At the bottom of our pyramid, we will begin with the metaphor of language as a fire and a teacher as a candle. Although we addressed this concept in our last module, we would like to place this concept first. We put this idea first because it supports all the other concepts that we have introduced. If you don't teach language learning using correct principles, you will likely extinguish any interest or desire students had to learn language to begin with. A teacher must be guided by correct principles in order to help ignite students and help them love a language.
In our second tier, we want to present the metaphor of language as cake. If you remember, in our first module, we introduced this concept by discussing how a teacher can motivate students only through engaging techniques, and that techniques that help make meaning clear allow students to engage in language learning. Body language, teacher talk, and scaffolding all help introduce students to language at just the right level, in the sweet spot, and thus allow for a more motivating experience.
On our third tier, let's discuss the metaphor of a camera again. If you remember, we said that a teacher is a photographer and language is a camera. We introduced you to this concept to help you remember the fact that language must be presented in 2 modes, a focused and diffused mode. Teachers who fail to move back and forth between these modes often have unbalanced learners, some of whom may have had straight A's on tests, but are unable to use the language in context.
As we reach the 4th tier, you'll remember another fundamental principle of language learning through the metaphor, language is basketball. Here we remind you of the need to stay out of the way of students and give them ample opportunities to practice. While you want to coach and guide them at times, the majority of time students should be using the language you have introduced. Remember that you want students to have language that is automatic and fluid.
At the 5th tier, we introduce the concept that language is a stage to help you identify with a learner's fear when confronting new things. We gave you key concepts to help you recognize that you can reduce students' anxieties either by risking yourself or by teaching them correct language learning strategies. Remember to teach your students about Francois.
On the 6th level, we moved away from talking about the teacher and started talking more about the student. This is because, ultimately, your time with your students is limited. Your job as a teacher is to give students autonomy and allow them to, figuratively, fly out of the nest. We shared that language was outside the door and that students are like young birds that need to be nudged to fly out into this world.
Finally, our last principle involved the idea that learners themselves ultimately become actors, but not in the sense of making movies. We mean that students move around the world, can act for themselves, and that they themselves are empowered by language. In this sense, we have stated that language is a passport.
We invite you to study these metaphors and this taxonomy before taking the test. They will serve as guides to enhance your memory of the principles we have tried to convey. Thanks for watching Teach English Now. It has been our privilege to be your tour guides on this exciting journey.